This is the regular March meeting of the Clark County Board of Education. I'd like to welcome everyone who is here for our meeting. I'd like to have everyone stand and observe a moment of silence. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have any additions or changes?
I have two suggested changes. In item 11, where it says research demolition possibilities, I'd like to propose inserting the words or rental. So it says demolition or rental possibilities.
Okay.
And the second change, I'd like to add an item, which is consider discussion to set the last day of school for the 2016-17 school year.
Didn't
we already do that?
There's some confusion about that, so I'm okay with it.
Well, I mean, I called today to double check with Paul because I thought it was already,
I thought we did that.
yeah, I thought there was already a motion on that,
So what do y'all think the last day of school is?
the 26th.
Okay. So are all in agreement on that?
I'm okay with that. All right.
Do that.
I just want to clarify.
That's what one set of minutes says
Okay.
Yeah,
on
because
the
that's, I called.
clarification that we did.
It was his interpretation of it, so I just want to make sure we were all on the same page. So we're all
Paul
on the
went
same
back and
page.
pulled the minute, we went through the minutes, well, today, actually, and it says that we have to miss, what, 3 more days before it comes back in front of the board? 2, before we would move it back.
All right.
Well, we've agreed it's the 26th then. Okay.
All right, so any other amendments or changes? So motion is in order to adopt the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Parado,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The next up is approval of minutes for the February 21st to 2017 regular meeting, February 28th special meeting, and March 4th special meeting. Ms. Ritchie was away from the 21st meeting on the 21st, so we'll consider those separately.
I have a question for a clarification on the 28th, but this computer does not work. It has to do with where we talked about.
If you want to, I haven't looked into it
Yeah.
yet. What do you need, the minutes?
Of the 28th. When it was talking about we would meet if we missed 7 days, which,
Do you want to?
and I requested a clarification, but I didn't ever receive a clarification, so I just wonder, I don't know. Okay, here's the way it reads. A motion was made by Mr. Parado, seconded by Dr. Kudak, to disseminate the 3 calendar options to staff for voting as presented, blah, 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 blah. If inclement weather exceeds 7 days, the calendar will be brought back to the Board of Education for review. Okay, is that 7 days in addition to the 5 that are gonna be forgiven that we don't make up? Or is it the 7th day, no matter how many days we've missed?
And I voted for that. I supported that calendar that had 5 built-in makeup days, and my intent would be if it's over 5, it needs to come back to us for discussion. Because at that point, we're going to have a different end of school day than what the
Okay,
calendar.
but our motion says if the number of days exceeds 7 days.
Yeah, I think
Is
there
that
is 7.
the
isn't there?
7th day, or is that 5 days plus 7 days?
I would, when I voted for that, I was 5 days, so
Yeah,
that's my.
that's what I was thinking, just the 5 days that we can make up to get us to 171, right?
Right,
So we don't have agreement on the wording of 7 days.
right.
And
So that's the clarification I'm requesting.
I thought it was 7. I thought we went from 5 to 7, back to 5 to 7. I think it was just a,
So 5 days.
What's written is what's recorded in the
Right.
in the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
think-
was in the
but
Yes,
minutes.
but it's still unclear when we talked about, the first 5 snow days we're not gonna make up.
Right.
But we're gonna come back, the board's going to review again when the number of inclement weather days exceed 7.
I think it's supposed to be 7's the number, and then after that, the board will review again. What would that put your hours at?
I think that would be fine. I would think that
What?
would include the 5 days.
Does that include the
I would think
five?
it would have the 5
That's included.
days.
So after the 7th inclement weather day, we come back? Okay.
So 5 days are included, that doesn't change the end date. Day 6 and 7, which would push the end date
6
to
and
back,
7.
and after 7, we have to talk about it.
Okay.
And the wording on that came from the tape, right? Because
Yeah.
there was no video of that, because I went to look for that also.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So Ms. Nance, can we add, to be perfectly clear, because we're gonna come back and look at this next year, I know that. So that motion basically says the 3 calendar options all have 5 built-in inclement weather days. There are 2 days we can add on at the end of the year without board approval. And after we miss 7 days total, including the 5 built-in days, it needs to come back to us for discussion. That's what that should read. Is everybody okay with that?
And when we say 5 built-in days, we mean that we drop from 176 down to 171 days.
Right, that's correct. Okay. All right. Any changes on the March 4th meeting?
Let me go yet. Are you still not up?
I didn't see any when I looked at it.
Doesn't work. I have my other thing. I can pull it out and let you use this one.
Okay. All right, if no changes on the March 4th meeting, any changes on the February 21st meeting, for those who are here? All right, let's do these separately. A motion is in order to approve the minutes for the February 21st, 2017 regular meeting as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Paradox.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with Ms. Ritchie absent. Actually, Ms. Ritchie is not voting.
Right.
Then a motion is in order to approve the minutes from the February 28th, 2017 special meeting as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Paradox. I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then a motion is in order to approve the March 4th, 2017 special meeting minutes as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr.
I'll
Paradox.
second it.
Second by Mr. Heisel. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, you all been waiting for student and staff recognition, so here it is.
Our first recognition tonight we'd like to do, we mentioned this young man in a meeting previously, but he was not feeling well that night, so we wanted to come back and do this again tonight so that he could get his recognition for his work. Congratulations to a 6th grade Baker student, Patrick Thomas. You want to come up front, Patrick? Patrick wrote the winning 2016 conservation essay. He'll be honored again at the Clark County Conservation Banquet a little bit later this spring. So congratulations to Patrick, and we're glad you're feeling better.
Congratulations.
Our next recognition, Christina Estep. There she is. This is a recognition that came to the board and through the board from Shearer Elementary, also contributed to this.
Oh, look at this.
Ms. Estep has 2 children in the Clark County Public Schools. She has a daughter, Cassandra, who attends Campbell, and a son, Gunner, who attends Shearer Elementary School. She is an advocate for her own children, but also for all children of Clark County. And she comes into contact with each and every day. And she comes into contact with a lot of students. She's a bus driver for us. She drives bus number 1551. She begins her day at the crack of dawn. This is Donald, Mr. Stump's responsible for this. I didn't make this schedule. She begins her day at the crack of dawn and ends when the sun goes down. She transports many students each day to Shearer, Baker, Campbell, and GRC, so it's not just the Shearer students. She's been driving a bus for Clark County now for a little over 4 years. She knows the bus routes like the back of her hand, and Shearer and the other schools can always count on her to help them with questions that they have with students and where they're supposed to be and which bus they're supposed to be on, especially in emergency situations. So the Board of Education and Shearer Elementary want to recognize Christina Estep for her commitment and her dedication to the students of Clark County Public Schools. Christina, you're appreciated more than you know. Thank you. recognitions is for a group of students from Baker. Let me read this part first, and we'll have the students come up for the recognition. Baker Intermediate students are using critical thinking and problem-solving skills in a creative way. Baker Intermediate began offering the Odyssey of the Mind program to students at the beginning of 2016-17 school year. Odyssey of the Mind is an international education program that provides students with creative problem-solving opportunities. 2 teams at Baker have been working hard all year in preparation for the regional competition. Odyssey of the Mind is a student-driven club that celebrates student creativity and talents. On February the 25th, 2 Baker Odyssey of the Mind teams traveled to Corbin, Kentucky to compete against other teams from all across eastern Kentucky. After the scores were calculated, both Baker Intermediate teams advanced to the state competition to be held on March 25th at the University of the Cumberlands. Considering the fact that 6 months ago they didn't even have a team put together, and they were up against some more experienced schools and students, this is a huge win for the Baker Bulldogs and Clark County Public Schools. So congratulations to the students and the coaches. The first team that we have to recognize is the team called Catch Us If You Can. I'd like to ask Sean Banker, Gabe Jacobs,
Thanks.
Riley Johnson.
Stay up here for a
Yeah, you guys stay up for a picture now.
Yeah.
Anissa Zai Lewis and Kayla O'Hara. These are the team members from Catch Us If You Can. And their coach, Heather Crowell and Janice Galaski. If they'll come up too, let the other one.
Smile.
Our second team is the Superhero Cliffhanger. These Harrison Ballard, Lauren Clem, Ryan Jackson, Thalia Roddy, Grace Kelly, and Patrick Kelly. And their coaches is Lacey Branham and Sarah Driesbach. They would come up also. You got-
Smile.
Keep smiling.
Keep smiling. Lots of pictures.
While they're taking the picture, also would like to say, and Baker, we'd like to thank Assistant Principal Miss Susan Jacobs for having the vision to bring this opportunity for the students. Good luck later this week, guys. Good luck. I have one other recognition. If I could, as these others are excellent, I'd like to have all the staff and everybody from the preschool to stand if they would, just to be recognized. I don't know if we've got enough room to get everybody up here for a photo or not.
I don't think so.
We'll use a school photo. The Cabinet for Health and Family Services, the Department for Community-Based Services Division of Child Care, and the Kentucky Department of Education certified that the Clark County Preschool, and this is the McClure Campus and Generation Center, has earned a 5-star rating. Guys, that's the equivalent of distinguished. A 1-star rating indicates that a program is performing at a basic level, and 5 stars is being the highest designation a program can achieve. So congratulations to you guys. And like I've said, I've told you guys at staff meeting before, I remember where we came from. When I first came here, I remember moving. And this is the hardest group of folks that you'll ever want to be around, working at our preschool. So we appreciate everything you do, so congratulations. You gonna get a picture around behind everybody? With this preschool group, the largest part of this group when I came here 10 years ago, a large part of this group was here 10 years ago, and they've been here as long as I have, so.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if I was gonna make it the second week after working with them for a week. They've been killed smoothly.
We gotta go this way.
Thank you. I think that's all of the recognitions that I have.
You have a sign up for public comments? Okay. I'll give a minute for everything to disperse here.
Cool down. Yeah, cool down now.
Okay, next up is superintendent's report, Mr. Christie.
I don't have a lot for tonight. I got 3 or 4 things here quickly. On March the 10th, the district team represented Clark County at the Mid-Year School Readiness Summit. The purpose of the Kentucky's Mid-Year School Readiness Summit was to help school districts, early learning providers, and community organizations throughout the Commonwealth to make vital connections and collaborations necessary for school readiness. On March the 22nd, the preschool will be having a crafting with your best gal at 9 o'clock. I've seen some of the stuff that comes out of some of those things. It's pretty neat. On March the 27th, the preschool is hosting the Toyota Born Learning from 5:30 to 7 at the McClure campus. Those are always pretty neat if you get a chance to stop by to see that too. The Clark County Preschool is now enrolling students for the 2017-18 school year. So you can call at 744-1722 to set up a screening appointment. The Migrant Education Program held a Parent Advisory Council meeting on Thursday, March 16th. At that meeting, the Migrant Program educated parents on the ILPs and how they can participate in the navigation of the Career Cruising website for future career planning of their students. Additionally, the parents received educational resources available in both English and Spanish to help students with their education. One other thing I'd like to add is congratulations to the Lady Cardinals. We may get a chance to do something for them a little bit later. The girls basketball team on winning the 10th region basketball tournament and advancing to the second round of the KSHAA Sweet 16, where they were defeated by Mercer County in a close game, and Mercer went on to win the entire tournament.
I
So,
think that makes him number 2, doesn't it?
well, they're still number 1 in our books. But congratulations to those girls too, and that's all that I have for reports tonight. Oh, I did paste in front of each of you. You've got a couple pages that look like this. This year, the K-Prep reporting back on the testing results will be reported back exactly as it has been in years past, with the addition of this. This is what the new dashboard is going to look like. So they're going to be running that this year when we get our scores back. So I just wanted you to have a copy so you can kind of start seeing what it looks like. I'll try to get you, or if you haven't gotten on the KSBA or the website, their KD website, you can get the breakdown of what each of these refer to and how those calculated those. It's just, they're rolling it out this time for the first time. They're going to be their first attempt at getting away from numerical ratings and things like that. That's kind of what's going to look like in the future.
Mr. Christie.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. One last thing, as the last part of my report, I've asked Mr. Neely if he would come tonight and give us a brief report on our workers' comp and how we're doing this year. We've had a couple of tough years. We put some new
We
things
have
in place, and
some positive news this year. Thank you, Mr. Christie. I just want to do a brief overview of how Clark County Public Schools is performing this year. As you know, we wrote the Clark County Public Schools with Church Mutual with a premium of $447,609. You had alternative quotes from Summit that was over $500,000, and with Keamy that came in at over $600,000. Our risk control visits through today, actually, we had one on August 16th, 2016, a training presentation. September 22nd, 2016, we had a safety assessment of Shear and George Rogers Clark High School. On October 18th, we had a presentation to the safety committee and a safety assessment of Baker. December 24th, we had a safety meeting and went over the nurse hotline, which is a new reporting procedure we're using now. January 17th, we had a claims review with Miss Ryan, Miss Henry, and Pat Clossy came down from Church Mutual. And February 13th, excuse me, we delivered safety posters to distribute to all schools. Current strengths, actually, the safety committee, I would like to commend them. They're doing a great job. Miss Ryan has been a pleasure to work with. Miss Rice and now Miss Henry. We have a very good working relationship. The current strengths of the district, functioning safety committee that has been meeting quarterly, and members are from every school site, various departments. An informal return to work program exists. Drivers' records are checked when drivers are hired, and Safe Schools is utilized for safety training. Now, I've included some claims reports back here, claim trends. The most common type of claim were strains, followed by slips and falls. Most costly claims were slips and falls. We have opportunities to enhance the role and effectiveness of the safety committee, which we're doing every meeting. Enriching the principal's awareness, role, and impact on safety, work comp, and the financial impact of such, and increase improving accident investigation, and possibilities and suggestions. We'll go over those during safety committee meetings. The second page there, I've included your workers' comp premium loss summary. You can see dating back to 2011 and 2012 to 3 different snapshots since we've taken it over with Church Mutual. It shows the premium, the number of claims. As of October 1st, 2016, you had 13 claims. 6 were zero paid, 6 were open. There was a large claim in there, $135,905. The reserves were $134,433, and the actual incurred claims were $167,904. The reserves, $165,919. As you can see, the reserves are going down each quarter when we check it. If you look at March 1st, there's a total of 67 claims. 39 are zero paid, and I would attribute that to the nurse hotline, don't you think, Ms. Ryan, where they're getting treatment right away, getting advice on what to do. You have 12 open. The largest claim stayed at the $135,905. Reserves $81,637. Your total incurred $188,020, and your reserves $105,574. We did get your experience mod. This year you had a 2.04. The 2017-18 policy term, it will go down to a 1.42. Now also, we were able to get 16.5% credit applied on top of the experience mod. So your work comp premium will go down this year. The next page, I won't bore you with it, but those are the types of reports that Ms. Ryan can look at. Very detailed reports. We're working on, there's some past years with open claims. We're working on getting those closed out. That helps the experience mod go down. And the final page there, Church Mutual, if you remember when we first presented them, they have a dividend program that it's not a dividend for the company, it's a dividend for the actual Clark County Public Schools. So if your loss ratio is between 45.1 to 50%, you get a 1% rebate, which would occur in the 18th month. So you would see that in December. Looking at your losses right now, you're in contention to get that. So that would be great as well. But again, it's a pleasure working with the safety committee, Ms. Ryan, Ms. Henry, Mr. Stump, Mr. Nichols. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to ask.
What's the deductible on this policy?
It's a work comp, there is no deductible.
We've got one on our work comp.
Do you?
Yeah.
No, this is zero deductible.
Sad for you, but we don't have.
It's good. I mean, it saves us a bunch of money. So the companies that are available to you in this rate class don't have deductibles, is what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Danny.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next up is gonna be item number 4, 6-month attendance update, Mr. Hall.
Okay, take a look at month 6. You can see that kudos are in order to Campbell Junior High, who for the first time won their attendance award, and they also won the staff. So during month 6, they had both the student and the staff attendance that they showed proudly in their foyer. 93.15. For the district, 92.22. This is one of consecutive months we were beset by quite a bit of illness. District up to that point, 94.05.
That's actually not too bad considering the level of illness in the community.
No,
so.
no, it's if I had, I think I had mentioned to you all at one of the previous ones, if I had closed my eyes and had to take a guess and didn't look at it, I would have said we were a good 5 points below where we ended up, so.
Yeah. Okay.
And
All right, any questions, Mr. Holland? Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Next up is item number 5, consider discussion and approval of RFPs of the bond depository for 2017-18, 2018-19 school years. Ms. Ellis.
All right, well, I hope you've since had time to review your binders. Are there any questions specifically about the bank
Can
deposits?
you just give us a brief overview?
Yep, we had two RFPs come in, one from Traditional Bank and one from Kentucky Bank. And if you'll flip to the first page, the recommendation from the Mr. Christie and myself after review. As you can see, Traditional Bank has the higher rate that they're offering us of the 1%. Kentucky Bank at the 0.4%. So our recommendation is to stay with Traditional Bank simply for the fact that their rate is better on our return of money.
Does the floor have anything how does the floor?
The floor
affect us?
means that they will never go below that rate. So Traditional Bank saying that they will not go below 1%. Even if Prime, what they've offered us, Prime Plus, even if it goes below, they will not go below 1% for us.
Did the attorney review the materials in the RFP packet?
I'm unaware if he did or not.
I saw what was attached to the agenda in OneDrive, but I'm certain I didn't see everything that you have included in that binder.
And there is one for you. I'm not
That's
sure.
another binder. I'll bring it in here.
Because it seemed to have some legal sorts of
The-
stuff in it.
Right, and the documentation is exactly the same as what was presented 2 years ago and what we agreed. I didn't change anything other than changing dates for the time frame that we're in now, but all of the legal language, everything is exactly the same as it was 2 years ago when the bank bid went out.
Was it reviewed by an attorney 2 years ago?
I was not here 2 years ago, so I'm not aware.
And I'm not sure Buzzy went through it. We did the package. I'm not sure Buzzy went through it. The rate.
There you go. I think you're just supposed to read.
If you could clarify for me, since I'll still play the new guy card, the bonded depository, is that for all of the cash funds we have, or is that for just a sliver of it?
That is all of our cash funds.
Okay.
Everything right now is housed at one location for our district.
Okay.
And so that is everything we have on deposit, no matter what the funds are, whether they're construction, general fund, they're all.
Are we required to keep all of the money there through the contract? So one of the things we
No.
talked about at a prior meeting is potentially investing in our own bonds short-term bonds. if
Correct.
We felt like it.
That is the discretion of the finance officer and the board, making that decision on how to invest the funds. That's what policy states. And no, it states in the RFP itself that we are not obligated to stay with this one bank, even though they win the bid of the board. That we can invest our money as we see fit.
Okay.
Okay, other discussion or questions? Do you see any substantive difference between the bids other than the rates?
No, everything was pretty much equal within, except for just the rate offer of on deposit, and then if we perchance needed to take loans out, the rate that they would extend to us for a loan.
I'm not sure, I don't have my sticky note, but, in part of the discussion or something, it had the number of direct deposits for payroll, and then it had the number of checks for payroll. Is part of our payroll not direct deposit?
We do, all to our staff is direct deposited, but when we do the vendors, like where we pull money out of people's payroll and have to send to American Fidelity or Delta Dental, or we
Okay.
cut checks for
Okay.
those and send to the vendors. So
So
there's,
those aren't accounts payable?
no, those are
Okay.
payroll checks, and it's to our vendors that we are pulling deductions for
Okay.
benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions or discussion? Looks like Traditional Bank is giving us the better deal, so everything else held equal.
He's got
That's
about
Mr.
another hour
Elkin's speed
over here.
reading.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, if you did anything on this evening and condition it on review, I could have it reviewed by 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Okay. All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll
I
make
move-
that.
oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Judy.
I move that we accept Traditional Bank as the bond of depository for 2017-18 and 2018-19, pending review or
Pending legal review.
pending legal review by our board attorney.
Second by Mr. Heisel. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And after he reviews it tomorrow, you just let me know and then.
I'll start on first thing in the morning, I'll email you and.
Okay.
Okay. If you,
All right, next up is the RFP submitted for the 2016-17, 2017-18, and 2018-19 school year's audits.
We had one proposal come in from that, and that was from our current auditors that we have used the past 3 years. Summers, McCrary, and Sparks. They've done a good job with us the last 3 years. They're easy to work with and do a good review of our accounts. They came in very comparable to what they've been. It's up just a few dollars from the last 3 years bid, but that recommendation page, if you'll flip to that tab, it's got the cost for each fund that they are gonna charge. And then, like I said, any questions with them?
It's escalating $100 a year.
Yes.
How many CPAs are in that firm? Do you have any idea off the top of your
It
head?
has in their personnel.
It is in the-
There are like six.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's
Six
in the
CPAs
packet.
or
I'd have to
something.
find that page and read it.
5 CPAs and 3 staff accountants.
Okay.
Thank you, 6.
That's what I was thinking. Well, we've had the same person do our audits for many, as long as I've been on the board.
As long as I've been on the board as well. 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And as long as I've been on the board. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Any other discussion? Not much to discuss since it's only one bid. Since Mr. Elkins has the binder, we'll have to take a look at this too, so. All right. Well, if not, no other discussion, motion is in order to consider approval of Summers McCrary and Sparks PSC as auditor for the school years 2016-17, 2017-18, and 2018-19. Pending legal review.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Heisel,
Second.
second by Mr. Crowder. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Alves. All right, next up is Mr. Holland. Consider approval to adopt an updated 09.121 and 09.121 procedure and policy. Yeah, I get confused. Ms. Six, there's an email chain I was party to, and I get confused about this too, because parents have asked me in the office, and I still don't have it straight, so maybe you can straighten us all out.
Sure. The 17-18 school year.
Right.
In previous years, the age for students to be able to enter into kindergarten, they had to be 5 on or before October the 1st. Beginning with the 17-18 school year, that date moves from October 1st to August 1st. And so hence what we've done here. What we've done is, this is from KSBA, and what districts are doing across the state, they are giving the option, if they would like to have them, those students from August 1st to October 1st, if their birthday falls in that realm, to give them the opportunity, if the district so chooses, and we're exercising our option to do that, to take an entry test to show that if there is the aptitude to be able to enter in. So with that, that's what this part has changed. I'm not aware of any district that surrounds us that's not giving that option. Everyone that I'm aware of it is getting that. So with that, I contacted KSBA. This was going to be rolled out in June. We wanted to bring it a little bit early because when we do our kindergarten registration, I just wanted to have this updated so people were able to see that. So I asked KSBA, I said, are you ready to be able to send us what you're going to send to all the districts in June for their updates? And she said yes. And I said, okay, if you'll send that to me, there's 2 things that we'd like to put in to be transparent and just very open. And the only 2 things that we inserted that did not come from KSBA is, if Chris, is there a way to pull that up just a little bit there? I'm sorry, I said that wrong, to go down. Those 2 lines right there. And we are going to use the Brigance, because that is at no cost to the district. That is the kindergarten screener that's already used. Some districts are using Dial 4, most are using Brigance, but you pay for Dial 4, and so no cost to the district. We talked about using Brigance. And then second, to put in so that people are aware that they need to have that by, in the request in by June 1st. So it gives us enough time to be able to test. So that's really what the policy is. Then if you look at the administrative procedure, this we took a look at. There were several of us, Ms. Considine, Ms. Winburn, Ms. Jarman, a couple of us. Took a look at some of the administrative procedures from a couple of other districts. Kind of looked at what they had. We didn't care for exactly what they had specifically, and so we kind of made this to where that we felt comfortable with it, came to a consensus, and that's the administrative procedure that we asked to have typed up. So those are the 2 things before you.
If the request for evaluation or whatever is for students whose birthdays fall between August 1 and October 1, but August 1 is the statutory rule now? Okay. So why are we testing those kids?
We don't have to. We don't have to take that as an option. We actually discussed that internally as to whether we wanted to even do that. The rest of the surrounding counties are taking that option. They're going to offer that. If a child their birthdays fall in between there, we can offer that as an option. There are several people who this is going to affect, and we're taking a look at the numbers. We've come up with what we think are safe numbers in terms of who falls in between there. That's a tough spot to be in. We can just make a hard rule and say, listen, that's August 1st. That's the cutoff. No ifs, ands, or buts. We thought from a PR standpoint, for the district, as well as giving those who do have a very high aptitude, to give them that opportunity to take the test. We've set the benchmark as to what we think that is. It's going to be the 96th percentile. That matches what most of the surrounding counties have, 95, 96. We certainly didn't want to be the weak link with that. And so we wanted to hold high standards with that. Give them the opportunity to test. If they test in, that gives them the opportunity. They've shown that they can handle kindergarten, reducing the likelihood that we would need to hold them back, and they would need to take kindergarten or first grade again. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Jump in if you.
Okay, what is the minimum? They have to fall between August 1 and October 1 to even test.
Correct.
Okay,
Couple of
so
days.
this part that says that parents and guardians may apply if their children, they may apply for their child to enter school earlier than permitted under the statutory age requirement. What did, I still am.
That is just legalese. That's from KSBA. We've always had that on the books.
So
That's
if
part of
a
that.
parent of a 3-year-old comes and says, I want my kid to go to kindergarten,
They can file a petition.
okay, so is there a minimum age at which that comes into effect?
No, I mean,
So
that's,
no age has to be specified there.
you've got Doogie Howser that is just a genius at the age of 2. If they want to put him into school, I mean, theoretically, they can file that petition.
Okay, that just seemed. And do we have to use the wording shall attend public school?
Which spot? I'm sorry. There's a
The
lot going on.
red, second paragraph below primary school. A child who becomes 6 by August 1 shall attend public school unless he qualifies for an exemption as provided by law.
Is this policy or procedure? I'm sorry. Policy, okay.
Primary school.
Tell me that
I
one more
mean, I
time.
know this is in the verbiage that comes from KSBA, but
You know.
the shall always, that's so,
So whatever the board would like to, and we can present that back to KSBA. That's
be
their
permitted to
language.
attend.
So, when they submit that to us, I know they have thoroughly vetted those types of things. So I never get into those things of trying to change that. I felt safe with making the additions to the other parts because it was just making it more clear. But if the board wishes, then I can send that back to KSBA and say they'd like to have that language changed.
I mean, they're, those exemptions, do those, homeschool kids, I mean, what are those legal exemptions? Because kids do not have to attend public school.
Correct. So you'd have private schools, you'd have home schools, those would be your
Are
two
those,
choices.
but are those covered in the statute where they say as provided by law? When I looked at the 159.030, it didn't really address
I'd
that.
have to look at that and take a look to see.
Are those all your concerns, Ms. Hicks?
For now, yes. Go ahead, Scott.
Now, I was trying to wrap my hands around the wording also. So I got on the KSBA site and Bullitt counties, they've got updated wording and Montgomery County does also. So we did a comparison of those. And so I guess I'm a little confused with your statement that KSBA suggested this wording because it seemed like the wording's kind of, there's a lot of variability in the wording.
They may not have, see, they're the ones that you're looking at, when was that adopted? Does it have the adoption date?
We've
Does it-
got January 23rd, 2017.
November
And,
2016. was
So
the summary.
they didn't want to take the recommendations of KSBA. That's what that would be.
Well, I mean, a lot of the wording is similar. I was confused why all of this is struck out. And it's spent an insane amount of time on it, but it didn't seem like it really needed to be removed.
That's what the people from the state board, that's what they chose to take out. Once again, I know they have thoroughly vetted, or we trust with our policy updates that they have. That's what they chose to do, so if you'd like to have something put back in, we can also make that suggestion too.
So to bridge that gap, you think that perhaps the folks at Bullitt and Montgomery, they went ahead with their own wording on it while perhaps it was still in flux with the KSBA, and now KSBA has now come out and said, this is our official version.
I hate to say that, but that's what I would guess that it would be, is that they chose to jump ahead of time. KSBA has since probably made some deletions, additions, and so forth. I'm guessing at that, but it's afterwards, so it could very well be.
Would it be inappropriate that as part of this process that, that our attorney takes a look at the different wording versions to see which one makes the most sense, or is that not generally what's done in these things? When we're updating policy, and I don't know what time frame that we might be under.
And
that's
I'll
sort of
be
an
honest with
open-ended
you, this is
question.
not even something that we have to pass tonight. I'm just trying to be proactive with it. So if this is something that, as a matter of fact, if this is something that you're not comfortable with, don't just table it, because it doesn't have to be passed until, this will be part of in June. So this is not something that we're even, I just wanted to have it because our kindergarten registration is in April. I just thought it would be nice for parents to be able to kind of see that. But at the end of the day, none of this has to be done until the new school year, so. We'll have our procedures in place.
Would it be helpful to you to get a sense from the board as to whether we want to take the option of letting people test into kindergarten?
I mean, if
Is that something that'd be helpful for you to have that? Under the scenario, we might give you that indication and then send the wording off to our attorney to say what's the most optimal scenario. Again, I'm just throwing some concepts out here.
We just thought, as we discussed it, we just thought, if we say no, we're gonna be, to my knowledge, and I don't wanna say this 100%, but to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any district who has said no. So we thought if Clark County does that, then that looks like we're inflexible. But we also wanna hold to a high standard like some of the other counties have. So when in discussions, you've talked to your folks, I've talked to mine, and so that's where we came. I just want to give you our background as to where the idea and the thought process. Like I said, at the end of the day, if you don't want to do this and we just want to make a hard line and say it's August 1st, that's an option. Also, this does not have to be done today, next month, May. I mean, this is going to be rolled out in June as one of the policy updates. This is what it's going to look like. So you know ahead of time now.
The 96% figure, is that in the proposed
It's not.
policy?
It's not.
Okay, because one of the other counties does actually reference that in there, so skimming through it, and I didn't see that, thought maybe I
No,
missed
it's
it.
not. Because we also wanted to leave it open. We discussed that. We wanted to leave that open just in case we feel that other districts have lowered a little bit. They felt that it should be lowered. We wanted to have that wiggle room a little bit, not have to come back every single year to do that. But that doesn't sound like that's going to be something that other counties wanted to exercise. And 95th and 96th percentile typically has been what has been standard. So.
I would say the overall trend of parents placing their children in schools to make them go as late as possible.
Yes.
So, in other states, that has reached aggressive proportions, not here, but, yes, people have been known to do some interesting things to get their kids in school.
Yes.
It's called redshirting kindergartners, so.
Which I think those people who are in the early grades, they'd have an appreciation for too, because they're typically more ready.
So I think the discussion of the kids going earlier is somewhat moot, so I think it needs to be in there in case trends reverse, but right now the trend is towards sending kids as late as possible. So there's actually some studies out there which show that they have advantage over other kids, so.
I think it's good to at least have the flexibility in the
Yeah, I would
policy,
agree
though.
with that. So. That said, I'm fine with the language in here. 159.030 doesn't really address this specifically, so. There's some Attorney General decisions which look at attendance for kindergartners, but none addresses it specifically, so.
It would be my thought that since we're not under a time crunch, that it would be something good to turn over to our attorney to review on the wording. That's just one person's view.
Other
I
discussion?
certainly have time to do that, be glad to do it for you, offer you a couple of different, legal opinions maybe on the various options. What I'm hearing here, it sounds like it's more than anything, it's a legislative rollback of the October 1 date to August 1. And to the extent that's true, just having some hard line rule, that's just as an opening thought, sounds like it prevents you from employing the wrong method or technique in determining who, gets to come in early, to avoid challenge. Probables are always easier to enforce and comply with than, the gray areas.
I want to point out too, while you're talking in terms of that made me think, once they enter the system, they're in. So if Clark County takes a hardline stance at August 1, says we're not going to even give this test as an option, but every surrounding county does, any child who tests into, let's pick on Wolf County, I don't know. If Wolf County sets theirs at whatever percentage, child tests into theirs, and then they move from Wolf County to Clark County, we have no choice but to take them. Once they're in, they're in. So just wanted to make sure that was known too.
Sounds like that would apply even if you had a testing procedure allow early entry though, is that fair?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we try to have as much communication as possible, because you don't want to see one county have like a baseline of 70% and everybody else have a baseline of 95 and 96%, because all they have to do is be able to be in that county, however, take the test, enroll in that county, then they can move here and they're in. Once they're in the system, they're in the system, and Katie has verified that with us.
So given our recommended policy, if a child who has an August 1st birthday does not test well, we still can't keep them out if their parents want them to come. Is that correct?
Well, if they're 5 on or before August the 1st, then they're in regardless.
Okay.
If their birthday falls August 2nd to October the 1st, and if we
Yes.
chose to do that, and they did not test well, they would not enter, regardless of what their parents. We have that option to be able to say, they can submit a petition, but we can decline the petition.
So what's the point? I guess I still don't see the point of the policy if it doesn't really make if we can say, no, your kid can't go till.
If they don't meet the criteria, we can say no, but if they meet the criteria, they would be in.
But even if they're old enough and don't meet the criteria, we can say no? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
No.
Okay,
No.
okay.
No.
Okay,
No,
I didn't think.
they're of age.
That's the difference
Okay.
between may and should, may in the first bullet point and shall in the
Okay, so
second.
if my kid is 5 years old on August 1, we can't
They're
do
in.
anything about
Correct.
it, no matter how they test or do not test.
Correct.
Right, because 159.030 is the compulsory attendance statute, and it says you either go to public school, you go to private school, or you homeschool, one of the three.
Yes.
That's why the shall enroll in the public
Yeah,
school,
that's why shall is there.
or the other exemptions, the others are the exemptions, private school, homeschool.
Well, we're early with this, so take a look at it and think about it.
Discussion? Do you guys want to have Mr. Elkins take a look at this?
I
Take
would
this
like
for
for
next month?
the attorney to take a look at it.
Okay. All right, so a motion be in order to table this item. Want me to bring it back and put it on April? Will that help you out, Mr. Rowland, or?
Sure.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to table for April.
I move that we table policy 09.121 for legal review.
Okay. All right, so motion by Ms. Hicks,
I will second that.
second by Mr. Paz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Okay, next up is item number 8, consider selection and approval of school calendar for 2017-2018.
I finally got smart and wore comfortable clothes and comfortable shoes during the calendar discussion. So, the options that were given were presented. They were voted on. As you can see, the results. Option 1 received 28% of the votes. Option 2, 24% of the votes, and option 3, 48% of the votes.
Was that the Facebook poll?
I'm sorry.
Was that the Facebook poll?
That's the one that was
Kind of open to
online.
anyone?
It was online. They may have put it, I think Clark County's website had promoted it, so you could actually maybe go through it
linked
that way,
you.
but it linked you to it.
Well, but it wasn't limited just to staff. Anybody could
No,
have jumped on
anybody
it.
could vote. Mhm.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, yes. It was on our website.
All right, right, and just to recap, option 3, which was the popularity poll winner, has teachers going back August 15th, students going back August 16th. Labor Day is off, 2-day fall break, Friday, October 13th, and Monday, October 16th. 3-day Thanksgiving break, 22, 23, 24, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Full 2 weeks for Christmas, so that's going to start on December 18th and run all the way to the 1st.
Through the first.
Through the 1st, including the 1st. So, PD Day, our work day is the 2nd for teachers. Martin Luther King Day on January 15th. President's Day is a potential makeup day on February 19th. No days off in March. Spring break, April 2 through 6. And closing day for students the 23rd and teachers the 24th. And that includes 5 built-in snow days.
But please clarify the built-in snow days. Those are days that we do not make up.
Right. Makeup, it says makeup days will be used after the 5th snow day is taken.
So again, for the sake of clarification, we start off with that with President's Day is a potential makeup
Yes.
day.
We
But
have
it
that
has to
op-
be voted on.
We have that option, and we could discuss it at the January meeting.
So that's a potential makeup day.
Right.
And other days, and would just simply drop off the calendar. So we go from 176, 175, and we'll go all the way down to a floor of 171 days.
Right.
I mean, just to clarify, there's nothing
Right.
really built in about this. We would just simply relax the
Right.
number of required days accordingly
For students.
For students.
for
And
students.
then they come back to
And-
summer school to make up instructional days.
And that scenario, then the staff calendar is still 187 days in this scenario. And the days that we're talking about are inclement weather days, and does that also include safety, what's that other category of days? Health and safety closings? Or is this just weather-related days? Would
Include any day you're not in
Any
school.
day you're not in school.
Well, I think that's something we ought to clarify. since
Our
we-
minutes of last month said inclement weather days that we just modified earlier in this meeting.
And that's
If that
something I,
matters.
and that, well, I think it's, we need to have the understanding out here, so we all know what we might or might not be agreeing to. So, are we talking those, that we can go from 176 to 171 through inclement weather days, but not, a health and safety closing day? Or could we, or
Well,
could
define
we
the
expand
difference
it?
between inclement weather and health and safety closing.
Health and safety could be that we have a boiler problem at one of the schools. It's
Right.
Flu, low, outbreak.
Inclement weather's health and safety too. You don't want your kids dragged into the bus.
yeah.
Okay, so we would throw then health and safety closing into that, what takes us down on that? And then, of course, we need to go ahead and talk about the issue of if we have another unusual reason to close the school like we had this year, is that included, or is that going to be a tack-on day? We need to just go ahead and address that since we had that day this year, and I hope we have, similar occurrences in the future, so that issue will come up. But I think we need to go ahead and get it out in the open.
My understanding was you missed 5 days, no matter whatever those 5 days were for.
Yeah.
You don't make those up, and then after that, you start making them up. It was just 5 days.
My support of this calendar is based on a floor of 171. At that point, you start adding days on. So,
Now, I've got an out-of-the-box idea.
Does it maximize instruction?
In the real world we live in, I think it's something worth considering. Given that what we've just discussed, we've got the 176 and 171 window, realistically, going back to 1994, there's never been a year that we've not missed at least 2 days. That's per the information you gave me today. So it's almost disingenuous for us to say that this is a 176-day calendar, in my opinion. I think it's a 174-day calendar. It'd be like saying one of the 16 seeds would be a number 1 seed. That's just not gonna happen. So I wanna throw out for consideration that we keep the calendar structure the way it is. We actually drop it to a 174-day calendar,
Oh, he went the opposite on you, Judy.
because realistically, that's
It's about
what we're
adults,
really
it's not about
imputing. Oh, you're not
kids.
gonna throw that at me, Judy.
Getting ready to.
Okay. And,
Gordy's like, nope.
and, and the reason we would do this is because practically that's what we're really agreeing to in the real world. And what we would do in conjunction with that, this is for discussion, is we would reduce the required staff days by 2 days, from 187 to 185, keep salaries the same. For hourly folks, we can mathematically pull that same thing off by increasing their salaries or their pay rates by approximately 1%. And just simply say, we don't need those extra 2 days. No reason to have people come in. And the upside would be, it's realistic.
I have to leave, excuse me.
And it would make us slightly more competitive in trying to attract talent with other districts that simply you can make the same amount of money and work 2 fewer days. Now, this is a pretty radical idea. It might be something more appropriate for next year, but since we have the constraints of the open meetings law, we really don't have any other opportunities to discuss something like this. But at least I wanted to give it out there, because I think it's the number of days that we would really be going is reflective of really more reflective of 174. And the way you could accomplish that, you could take like 2 days and add those to the beginning of spring break. And then as you went through the bad winter days, you just knock those off. You know, if you had no days, well, hey, 16C did win. We would, have 2 extra days on spring break. But like I said, the upside is pay people the same amount of money and they have to work 2 fewer days. Makes it perhaps slightly more competitive.
With other districts.
For your all's consideration. Except
Here's my thoughts. We had a work session to pass calendars. We agreed to accept the majority vote, and that's what I'm prepared to do this evening. And I think if we want to entertain some other calendar options, or have this discussion when we discuss the calendar next year, that'll be appropriate. As far as I know, the calendar bill did not pass, or it's sitting in some committee somewhere. So if it's in a sitting committee, it's not going to go. So that's probably dead for this section. My thinking on the built-in snow days was, if you look at that, if you calculate an average from those days, you're probably looking at about 4 or 5. And, I think we, as leaders of this district, it would be good for us to communicate to the public when kids get out of school, okay? In an average year, this is when your kid's gonna start, this is when Christmas starts, this is when Christmas ends, and this is when your kid's gonna get out, okay? Now, if you have 15 snow days, that's not an average year. That's way different. If you look at I got a copy of that spreadsheet earlier, and there's pretty wide variance there. But yeah, if you're over 10, that's not a normal year. But I would say in a year where there's 2 to 5 snow days, 5 seems to be about the median. That's.
Did we not do that one year? Like when
Oh,
I
actually-
first got on the board, we decided to do it that way, and it worked great.
There was some years there. Let's see. Let me see if I can-
Wow.
You got it there.
2013-14, the board removed 6 days from the calendar. 2015-16, the board removed 4 days from the calendar.
Right.
So then last year, we just went, or we don't even know what we did last year. That was a total miscommunication.
So,
Was last year 172 days?
15-16 would be 172 days.
And this year we project to come out at 175.
Yes, 175.
Well, here's a question for you, Mr. Holland. Since the legislature changed the definition of the calendar, the school year a couple of years ago, there seems to be a disconnect between the length of teacher contracts and the length of number of days kids are in school. How have other districts approached this?
Say that again.
There seems to be correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be a disconnect between the number of days we have teachers employed and the number of days we actually have kids in school, because now we measure school in hours and days. So, are we an outlier because we go 6.5 hours a day?
We are. That's where we build up, and it goes to, there was a discussion too, that I think if that calendar bill passes, I think the discussion was, what do we value? Do we value hours or days? And I think that was Ms. Hicks had brought that up. Just, that's open for discussion. However, if the calendar bill were to pass, I think the legislation would be setting it towards hours as
Right.
opposed to days, because they can, in theory, if my calculations are correct, a district could drop down to about 152 days in their district as long as they meet the 1,062. So they waive the days as long as the hours. So sort of after, it was kind of ironic after we had that discussion, that kind of came out and it kind of seemed to say that they were valuing hours, so.
I didn't get a lot of saluting on my idea, but that was part of the genesis, that our folks are working longer, so we
Right.
trim a couple days off in fairness to our staff.
Okay, other discussion?
Was there discussion about our hourly workers and the 5 days?
No. My comment on, my response to Mr. Heisel's suggestion was, what I would agree to at this particular motion item is we sat down, we had a work session, we generated 3 calendar items. We had a majority vote for one, and I think I think to me, this item is limited for, okay, we abide by the majority rule and pick the calendar, that goes for everything else, so. You've given us food for thought, but I don't feel comfortable going retroactive and saying, okay, we need to go back and do something on this, so.
But Mrs. Hicks, if your question is, how the hourly folks impact if we go from 176 to 171 days? And I think the answer is they still are gonna be working those 5 days in some sort of,
The hourly workers? What do the cafeteria workers do for 5 days when there are no meals to prepare?
When they clean inventory, I mean, which
Food safety,
training, safe schools. We do a lot of safe school stuff that we pay them to do online. We have them, they can do it while they're being paid. Bus drivers, same type thing.
So I'm guessing we're not going to get away from the fact that when adults are in school, kids need to be there too. I mean, this trend of forgiving days, when teachers and staff have to still be there, but we're getting rid of kids. And the school, for so many of our students in this district and other districts, school is the safest, most nurturing place these kids have. And we're saying, okay, we're gonna let you go 27 days during the year that you don't have to come, and now we're gonna give you 5 more that you don't have to come. This is not about kids. There is not one of these calendars that is about kids, in my opinion.
and Ms. Hicks, it might seem like we're coming from 2 different directions, but I actually started there. I'm like, how many days does it really take to properly educate the kids? I mean, we should know what that number is, and I think in my theory, which is not often what we voted for, perhaps was a misunderstanding on my part, is that we need to determine how many days it is, and that's how many we go. And we just added on to the end on a one-to-one basis, but that's not what's available to us right now.
Right.
But my next place I got to after that was, let's be realistic about it, but
But
I agree with the concept of we need to figure out what it takes, and that's what we should do.
well, apparently the state thinks it only takes 1,062 hours, which is 152 days. So then we'll have our staffs come in for 30 days or so. Where does it end? The race to the bottom is where it's gonna end, folks. We are in a race to get to the bottom, in my opinion.
other discussion? Can I redirect the board back to approving choice number 3, which was the popular choice by a significant amount? Out of the 3 that we submitted that were okay, we were okay with all 3.
Well, not to leave on a negative note.
4 of us were okay.
Not to leave on a negative
No.
note, but just to emphasize that we do have a longer day than a longer instructional day of the days that we are here than almost anybody else in the state. And that's really missed on a lot of people.
Right.
Mr. Thomas, we have the fourth longest instructional day in the
Correct.
state, is that correct?
Correct.
And the longest of any public school system?
Correct, that's a non-independent.
And I-
And from the time we start in the morning until we end in the afternoon, what is not considered instructional time?
Everything is, except lunch. 25 minutes of lunch.
So whenever I walk into an elementary school and there's a line of kids for the restroom and a line of kids for the cafeteria and a line of kids for the library and a line of kids for the gym, that's all instructional time.
We're allowed to count that, yes.
Got it. Thank you.
And the same thing's going on in Fayette County and Montgomery County. It's the same thing. We know things like that exist, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why we go an extra 15 minutes. Is it 15? 18 minutes, something like that.
All right. You've given us some food for thought, Mr. Heisel. All right, other discussion? If not, a motion is in order to approve calendar option number 3. Out of the 3 calendars we proposed at our recent work session, and which was the poll winner.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Peridot,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Nay.
No.
So motion carries 3-2 with Mr. Peridot, Ms. Ritchie, and Dr. Kudak, yes, and Mr. Heisel, and Ms. Gibson, no.
Can I ask for clarification on one thing? Because you said it was raised, and I just want to have clarification. Are we going to take it 5 regardless, or is it going to be limited to a specific category if we're out? I just wanted to be clear on that.
You know, from my discussion, what I was able to glean is any reason. So inclement weather, safety,
Entertainment.
whatever. So,
How did the staff perceive this? Did they think it went well, or were there suggestions, or?
The only feedback that I got was they didn't think that, they thought that there would be a change made to one of the calendars. So that was the only thing. People kept saying that over and over, and I kept saying that's not what has been said and stated. There's been no negative feedback, and they seem to like option 3, so.
Thank you.
all right. Next up is item number 9, consideration approval to award an agreement to perform survey services for the GRC High School athletic fields. Mr. Stone.
The architect submitted RFPs for survey work in the athletic fields at GRC and received two bids that were included in your packet, one from Indris Engineering and the other from S&ME. The architect is recommending that the board consider the proposal from Indris for a total of $15,700, which would complete both surveys for both the projects at the gym and the athletic fields, as well as the geotech for both of those sites.
I think the optional utility locators, we don't feel that we can get a thorough job done through BUD services that are free.
That would be my understanding, but I could defer that question to Ryan.
Well, I think the survey company will in fact try to use BUD and help them in terms of locating anything. But what we're also including is all the topo and the other physical features that are beyond utilities.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand.
Okay?
You mean that
Surveyor-
your folks will locate that put it on our map, so it's not just flags stuck out there, it's integrated into your all's knowledge?
Well, the surveyor will go out and actually perform a physical survey to physically locate exactly where all the manholes, catch basins, curb inlets, sidewalks, elevations of sidewalks, curbs, pavement, everything is, along with any utilities that are newly located, particularly the sanitary line that's down along Lower Howards Creek that was installed, after the high school was constructed, or at that same timeline. And so those are a couple of manholes that we're actually looking at to try to tie into that are newly constructed. So we're trying to get all that information in order to take the best possible route and come up with an exact representation of what the contractor will bid in terms of the construction documents. Does that help? I mean, currently, we don't have any existing, we delayed doing this survey until we had an approved BG1 from the Department of Education, because this was on the athletic side, and the gym survey has already been conducted. So this is for the athletic field side.
So we did not do that survey back prior when we first bought the land?
No, we did do surveys when we first bought the land, but then we turned around and did all the construction that changed the
Right.
elevations and everything.
Right.
And provided the new improvements in terms of pavement, sidewalks,
Right.
utilities. Yes.
I understand that, but, so the existing survey will be of no value to anybody doing this one now? Do they just start from scratch without considering?
I'm sure they'll use it for reference in terms of
Okay.
like, but like I say, a lot of things have changed
Right.
considerably in terms of what's
Yeah.
been added, and everything that was existing except for along the fence line, most of it's been modified except down in the creek bottom.
Right.
Yeah, there's a couple of hills missing in the back now, so.
Oh, yeah.
Mr.
Contour is
Heisel,
very
to-
different.
To further elaborate on that, BUD only locates what's on public property. Once it crosses onto the school property, they do not locate lines beyond that. They go to the meter, essentially. Once you come off the meter anywhere else, they do not locate that. That's where the third-party utility goes in. And the primary reason for that is for water lines and power lines, underground electric, and gas, because they do not have a manhole or structure that you can connect the dots with, like a sanitary or a storm sewer does.
I was thinking the other part that makes sense is just go ahead and, Bud's gonna throw flags out there, but not gonna integrate it onto your plans. It makes sense to have on your plans.
They're gonna flag the stuff they know about, but they don't know where power lines, electric lines, going to lights, gas lines. Once they're on the school property, they don't know where that goes. They have it up to the meter. Anything off the meter, they don't know.
Okay. Other questions or discussion? All right. Let's see, the architect's recommendation is?
Interest for $15,700.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Okay. So a motion has been made to award Enris Engineering agreement to perform survey services for the GRC High School athletic fields. And the amount again is
$15,700.
$15,700. Motion by Mr. Heisel,
Second.
second by Mr. Parrott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay.
And just to follow up, if I may add, in reference to Mrs. Hicks' questions last meeting when Joe Nance was presenting, this $15,700 added to the $22,250 for the geotech for both sites, in addition to another $5,535 for the survey of the gymnasium, comes to a total of $43,485 that will be subject to reimbursement of the board fund from, once the bonds are sold from the BG1. The BG1 will have to be adjusted. Right now, it was approved with $20,000 on the geotech survey line, so we'll have to increase that upon construction documents. You know, when it actually goes to bid at that point, we'll probably go ahead and change that to that amount so that we can reimburse the board's contingency fund.
Okay. All right, next up, is item number 10, consideration and approval of the schematic design for the GRC High School athletic fields.
As presented to the board and as reviewed, we're asking that the board formally approve the schematic design so we can send them up to the state for approval, which would then get us into the next project of project design and preparing for bids. So we
Ron,
have.
can you take us through the high points?
Oh, yeah, sure can. So you've seen some of this. What we're talking about this evening is the schematic design. You had seen the gym earlier in terms of the schematic, and we've already sent that to the Department of Education, and that's where we ended up going to state board and taking care of the variance. We were waiting until we got that BG1 together to come back and actually deal with both the schematic in terms of the overall master plan, based on programming, to talk about the idea of having the football track kind of a stadium with seating for 4,000 for the home side and everything. And then also to come back with a parking lot, that would be providing some handicap parking down here at the athletic venue. Also, you know, for players, coaches that want to come here. But then we had softball, a practice field, and baseball, along with the 6 tennis courts. And so what I would call to your attention is that we have further developed a little bit more what actually was taking place as a part of the base bid, along with the gym proper, is what we were looking at in terms of the stadium. And we're calling it here with both the venues of track, also field events would be provided, and then the actual football field.
Excuse me.
And soccer.
And soccer.
And soccer.
And band.
And this would be artificial turf. There's been cash provided in the BG1 to cover that, and conversations we had with the Department of Education. So that would give you a lot more flexibility in terms of the number of games and the different, you know, sports and stuff like that, and that field, you know, not being worn in terms of it being natural turf, natural grass. Okay. Any other?
Has the website been updated to reflect that it's not Clark County?
No, we just put that together, and I want to say that what we had intended that earlier version to be was that showing some difference in the lettering, difference in the background with the black versus the red. But based on comments that we received, we went ahead and came back and provided this that can't get on the website, that actually just kind of indicated the Cardinals at either end. We thought that just a GRC might be kind of small, and so we opted to show the GRC part of the logo here at the midfield.
But no George Rogers Clark anywhere.
No George Rogers Clark anywhere. Now, that's something still that we could come back. The George Rogers Clark would require a much less height to the font or to the actual lettering to get that all the way across, unless we did some kind of George Rogers and Clark on the other side or something. So we are currently showing in terms of the schematic, and all this is up for future development. Like Mr. Stump said, the next phase would be going to design development, and we'd be back with the board with showing you more in the way of the developed floor plans, elevations that take place here, particularly with the stadium itself, along with further developments with the gym. In fact, the gym, so you know, is still ahead of, or still on schedule in terms of our having started that and having that survey done, the geotech. So we'll be with you with design and development in a couple of months, but we're still waiting on the survey. The surveyor indicated it would be probably April the 21st before he could get us any information. So we won't be able to really start a lot of further development with the approval this evening of schematics that we could then, when we get the survey information, move forward with grading, you know, layouts and everything like that per the survey to get to design development for the fields, which will come after the gym. And then we're trying to catch up with everything for your actual construction document phase. Again, we'll be back to the board with construction documents at that point combined. So we would have both the gym and athletic fields, all this kind of together.
So it could be bidded together.
At the construction document
Right.
phase, getting ready to go out to bid.
When do you anticipate bids will go out?
We're looking at in early July, trying to get out to bid. That's if we can kind of get this, if the surveyor can get us the information, and as long as the approvals and stuff kind of continue with the Department of Education.
I think you were implying that we'll have some further sessions where we can go over more of the details, like somebody said, gosh, we ought to have perhaps one more bathroom stall, or
Yes.
we ought to make sure we have an outlet here, or sidewalk ought to be this width, or something like that. There's still opportunity for.
Still opportunity for that. I know
input
they're
like
having
that.
conversations based on just having gotten this far with even the layout to talk about wanting to have maybe the visitors' lockers, to have a few more area, a little more area for players, also have a few more facilities or restroom facilities for the locker rooms. So I think looks like we're pretty good maybe with the actual public restrooms. We can certainly have all that conversation moving forward.
The space underneath the stands, if there is a thunderstorm or something like that, is it anticipated there would be enough room that people wouldn't be very comfortable, but you could get back in there and get into some shelter?
Well, it would be limited shelter in the sense that any wind-driven rain, we're not going to be able to protect, or we're not enclosing underneath the bleachers in its entirety. So all of this yellow area is kind of under the bleacher, but it's also totally open, except for whatever we kind of were showing some proposed, I don't know if you've seen some of those on some of the fences now, kind of a screen printing process that goes on to some large panels that kind of provide some logo or some identification and kind of help, sort of upgrade the structure and not just see all the understructure there for the bleachers themselves as you're approaching the stadium. So we had these metal panels trying to kind of create more of an entry here that is kind of coming in between the two concession stands that are happening here at this lower level. But then the rest of this is all tucked in a little bit further under in terms of the locker rooms themselves. Good question. Yes, people could get down under there. We at least wouldn't be in any kind of torrential downpour in terms of having some safety. But obviously, I can't say that it's going to be like being in a shelter because it's totally open underneath the bleachers. Yeah, so this is just this first step in terms of making sure that what we're proposing, what we're showing in terms of the big items in terms of where things would go from a master plan standpoint. And we did kind of present the idea that, again, like I say, that the gym itself and the stadium are the priorities in terms of the base bid. And then we're looking at the other venues as alternates.
You touch on the elevations for the gym. I haven't seen that yet. We saw the schematic, well, I've looked at the schematics for the gym, but not the elevations, so.
Okay, we'll bring this over here a little closer. What we were doing was starting to show a little bit of this because we had gotten this far in terms of getting ready for design development. If you will, this is your current existing elevation as far as the entry into the auditorium. Okay, down at the circle where you're having the parent drop off. And so we were kind of trying to continue that, mimic some of that with the floor plan with kind of this curve. And then this would become another entry and another exit entry into the lobby in front of the gym. And so this is that other view of what that looks like in terms of that space, again, along the parent drop off. So you had the auditorium entry and now this large, facade that is showing you the two-story kind of aspect of the gym and mezzanine with that monumental stair that's in that front lobby space. Okay?
Yeah.
What?
From his home, he would, in perspective, his house is facing the GRC.
GRC.
With written on the side of the
On
building.
the side, yeah.
Bottom, yeah, there you go.
This here.
Is that gonna be a lot higher than the existing building?
Yes.
By how much?
Probably about 10 or 12 feet.
Okay.
That's where we're looking at those sections and stuff right now.
Okay. So that's gonna be 1 story higher than what's
Yeah,
there.
and we'll have some updated images with that, with the DD, with the design development documents that'll be here for the gym.
Okay.
And a lot more detail as far as the floor plans and everything goes.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the lights from the football field are gonna shine right in my front window during games.
Yeah, that was
We only have
intentional.
we only have a couple of years. I'll just move the
So
guard to the
where
front
are
wall.
our,
I did all sorts of work.
the classroom? Do you have the,
Oh, the floor plan, yes.
yes, the floor plan for the classroom?
Okay. So, classrooms that we added, I can get you oriented. Here again, like we were looking at, this was the curved entry, the existing entry into the auditorium. This is that curved wall that kind of mimics some of that, that brings you into the entry in that two-story glass space you saw with this monumental stair to the mezzanine, okay? And what happens is so as you come in, either from this public entry or most importantly, either from this back corridor at the lower level, okay, of the auditorium and classroom wing, you can come through, around, and here are the 3 classrooms that are here for this project. Okay, so we've got both the health classroom and then having both the ROTC and kind of multi-purpose and the fine arts multi-purpose space. So these would be a lower roof, so that was what we had in the elevation where you're seeing this as just more of a 1.5 story space for these larger envelopes here. And then these are tucked underneath the bleachers.
Okay.
And so this is that roof area here that you're seeing over these multi-purpose areas.
Kind of put it in perspective, when you're standing in the foyer at the auditorium, in that front big open part, the two big windows that we've said all along with.
Yes, that would
The,
be.
the one,
They might.
the one on the inside part, it would become a concession window.
Right.
And the one toward the front side of the building would be a double entry into the gymnasium part. A little bit of change that, by doing that, instead of having the two entryways there, what that does is that's gonna better serve the auditorium, because now you'll have a concession area available for your auditorium programs and things that you don't have right
For
now.
this lobby.
That lobby. We don't have that option right now.
And we provided restrooms, like I say, for the public on this lower level, you know, and also at the upper level. So if you're in the upper bleachers at, you know, any kind of halftime, you know, intermission, whatever kind of program, people will have access without having to go back downstairs.
Did y'all give any thought to making the classrooms 2 stories?
If you did that, then you'd have to have elevators, stairs, everything to go along with, you talked about, in terms of height or like the 2-story?
No,
actually
in terms of height that you would access from the mezzanine.
With the bleachers here would be, you'd be cut off.
All right.
When the
Yeah,
bleachers
one of the bleachers
retract.
to get-
Which the bleachers do retract though, right?
Yes.
So there wouldn't be an open space, there would be an aisleway that could accommodate that, it just simply doesn't work.
No, the aisle is part of the bleachers, it comes out so that people can use it, and then, yes, it's all back and stacked up against this wall. And again, like I say, if we had a 2-story kind of height and access to a second floor, then, yeah, that would kind of increase, obviously, our cost opinion right now, or add more square footage, which we have to go to KDE for the variance to begin with all that we've done with adding the gym and the additional academic space. So we've kind of pushed the envelope. One other nice feature that was incorporated here that we're developing is the idea of actually being able to have access from the current existing auxiliary PE gym that would be available and come in onto the mezzanine and then down to the playing floor. So at any kind of summer program, invitational, you know, you could have access to both courts and be running multiple, you know, games. Particularly if you decided you wanted to go cross court, a little smaller court, you could have 4 games taking place at the same time in this venue at the high school here. So a lot of flexibility.
As this moves along, will you all also be addressing traffic flow? How to get these 4,000 people in and out of here?
I mean,
That one's pretty much addressed.
we addressed a lot of that when we could in terms of what happens with the actual layout with, the big thing would be the fact that, yes, are you gonna open this up and let this exit be available that's currently gated as a part of like having now the venue for both the gym and the football stadium available to have that number of people.
Kentucky Department of Transportation has already kind of set down on that and said that's a right turn in and a right turn out.
Right, yeah.
Well, but at least it would be a right turnout, so you could
If you
potentially
If you were playing
route.
Madison County, that'd be a good exit, because everybody come, you know, they can come out and go right toward Madison County. But if you're playing Montgomery, that might be a problem when people start coming, trying to turn and go back the other way. It would require an officer be up there.
Yeah.
There would be room for people to make that right turn, which would be very dangerous.
You could do it with an officer that's there though.
You could if you had an officer.
Stopping traffic,
To stop
because
traffic.
people are still with the way that's designed, they're still making kind of a right movement to have to then U-turn almost and come back to go northbound.
But
Transportation
actually,
Department would say no. I can tell you right now, Transportation
They
Department
will
would
say
say no.
no.
but what is permitted at this point in
Right
time is the
road.
southbound exit out of that second
Right,
entrance, so
a
you
right
get
turn
people.
into that and a right turn out is all that's permitted.
Because, I mean, you can go down there and then take, was it Lyle Lane and then get out
And come around back.
in that way.
Yeah.
So that at least takes some of the flow
For
off.
the home folks, they'll learn that as a
Yeah.
shortcut, if we, you know, open that gate and let that exit traffic happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. I mean, it's kind of part of the overall master plan with what happens with I mean, you'll have cars in both the front lots and the back lot, and they're the student, staff, you know.
I just want to make sure it's addressed, because we'd hate to get all this built, and then somebody say, well, dadgummit, why didn't I even think about it?
Right.
Hopefully the answer is, we thought about it, and here's the constraints we had.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? If not, a motion is in order to approve the schematic design for the GRC high school athletic fields and gym as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Barano,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next up, item number 11. Consider approval to research demolition or rental possibilities for the property next to Concrete Elementary School. Mr. Stump. Donald is back up.
Oh, if that seat was feeling nice, it's been a long day. Discussion to pursue, or request to pursue options for the previously called or referred to Aerocoats building. That is the potentially our future site for our preschool. We're asking permission to play the field a little bit to see if there's businesses out there or companies out there or firms that would kind of give us some financial idea of what it may cost the board to go ahead and demo that building in anticipation of following the next steps in pursuing the preschool site.
All right, discussion.
Not spending any money? All you're gonna do is
No,
research
I'm
whether
just
to
research the
rent it or
possibilities, and in
demo
this
it.
case, you have to rent or to.
Well, we're doing research. I'll say go ahead, let's do it.
So there's a lot of uncertainties. There's a lot of big steel frames in there and
I know,
doors.
but you're just researching, you're not
That's
spending
correct.
money, right?
That's right.
So there would be an RFP later on?
Yes.
And that's not what we're asking for right now.
And my suggestion is at the same time, at least put some feelers out there to see if anybody has any interest in a short-term rental. Emphasize the short-term rental part.
Can you be a little more specific as how you're defining feelers? Something advertised in the paper, or are you suggesting we do something formally?
Are you gonna do anything formally with seeing what people might be interested in demolition bids?
We'll probably advertise, not in the RFP form, but to ask for interested parties to contact us and.
Well,
My
Sir.
thoughts on it was, on the demolition part, was not just to pay somebody for the demolition, but the possibility of doing this in advance, not being under a time constriction of having design documents sitting here for a preschool and then having to try to contract with somebody for demolition, your prices go up. If we're gonna know we're gonna do a demolition, at least explore the possibilities of parts of it being taken down for materials, for cost, in lieu of paying somebody to do it. There's a lot of steel in that building.
Yeah.
In terms of the rental option, we certainly want to be compliant with whatever the purchasing and those types of regulations are. So whatever it would take to at least see what interest there may be. I don't think we want to go to extreme levels, because it could very well be the interest is minimal to nil.
Yeah, and we're anticipating our insurance on that facility would go up significantly as well.
Well, we would only do it if that would.
Wouldn't it
you know,
have to
if
be,
would
in
on
the
a net
windows broke and
basis.
stuff like that in that building? That would have to be fixed before you could rent it and,
They're gonna research it and tell us, right?
well, I mean, you can drive by and see it. I can research it.
I toured it on a chilly day last week,
The
and
roof leaks water.
it's not exactly an optimal facility, but, it could be that somebody might have an interest in it, just to put things that would benefit from being indoors, but not necessarily watertight.
Well, there's large areas that are dry and remain dry.
Yeah.
What's in there?
I said, there's interest in putting things in there already, so. But nobody's stepping up and want to pay to put anything in there, so. But we'll look at that, and we'll check the insurance, what would be required to rent it. I think that's a first step. What we have to do to the building to make it legal to put somebody in the building. I don't know that we could sign some kind of a contract where they give away their rights of security and rights of safety in that building.
But still, there would be liability, property liability, if somebody were in there and injured, or if garage door fell on someone or something of that nature.
Well,
Will.
and again, from my perspective, I wouldn't want it to be a terribly long-term lease, maybe, you know, a year at the most or something like that. Not only if it benefited the district, put more money in our general fund at the end of the day that we could use for construction.
With permission to move forward with this, we'll report back to the April meeting.
Okay. All right. Other discussion? None. A motion is order, consider approval of the research demolition and/or rental, You can't demolish and rent at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So this is demolition or rental possibilities for the property next to Park Run Elementary Schools.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Heisel.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is item number 12, discussion of potential RFP development for marketing and public relations services. Mr. Heisel.
Again, because we don't really have the opportunity to get together and discuss things as a group, I wanted to bring this subject up so we could start a discussion on it. Several of us at the last KSBA meeting went to either a PR or a marketing seminar or a branding seminar or something like that, and I was one of those folks, and it certainly seemed like that'd be something that would be beneficial for our district. You know, kind of like our friends in the airlines say when you get on the plane, they say, we know you have a choice of airlines, we appreciate you choosing us. Well, in the real world we live in, we're surrounded by other counties, and people have the option of where they want to locate when they move to Central Kentucky. And there is, one of the things that's really been enjoyable being on the board is learning more of the great things that are going on in Clark County. And there's a lot of great things going on in the Clark County school system. And in some respects, people who don't know about it, we're kind of a hidden gem that people don't know about. And as we found out a couple meetings ago, realistically, when you go through the seat calculation, each additional student that we can pick up in our county that doesn't go to another county it's a lot of money for us. And we have so many fixed costs that we can bring those in from a business standpoint, we would be well ahead. And we have an interesting situation in our budget that we actually have some revenue stream that's available to us that's not tax money. It's at least $20,000 a year that we have coming in that is not tax money, because I think it would just simply, from the same PR standpoint, go over a lot better if we said, hey, we're not spending tax money to do marketing services, we're actually spending non-tax money. So there is a revenue stream available that we can do that with. But I don't know exactly how we would go about the final design of it, but I think I don't want to get interest of the rest of the board to see if you all would have any further interest in perhaps bringing some firms in here and they can make presentations to us, and it may not even be at the official RFP level at that point in time, just to get a feel for what options there might be. Because again, I think we've got a lot of great things going on in Clark County, and I want more people to know about it. I want to see what the sense of the rest of the board is on that.
I went to one of the presentations as well, and it was just really fabulous, the things that, they were doing to promote not only their school, but also the community. It's really, really good stuff. And, as we think about this pesky matter of charter schools, when we're gonna have to become more competitive with other groups who will have, where students will have, and families will have more options. We need to, in my opinion, assure that we are the top choice for families and students.
In my time on the board, I've engaged some more traditional things. Let's see, I've talked to the Chamber of Commerce and talked to the Chamber of Commerce and talked to Commerce, I was blue in the face. And I've talked to the mayor, county judge executive, industrial development, many of the other arms in town. Cora knows, she's listened to me talk many times. So, and I think we've gotten some limited response there, to be honest. So it may be time for us to do something like that.
Can I give you two other reasons?
Sure.
One is to promote us within our own community. I've been here a long time, and I've watched this happen slowly, and it's a lot better than it used to be. We have a much better relationship with our community, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. And a lot of us have worked very hard on that. It's a whole lot easier if you have a person who is dedicated to doing that, as opposed to doing it piecemeal. And the other reason is, when you want to do something in this community and you need to raise tax revenue, you need them to know why. And if you don't have somebody who's dedicated to telling our story and explaining why we need revenue, or explaining why we need new facilities, or whatever it may be, it takes a very long time. Some of you have been here as long as I have and have seen the struggles we've been through in trying to raise revenue in various forms. So those are two more good reasons to do that. I already belong to the Kentucky School Public Relations Association, so I see some of the work that they do, and I joined that so that I could have access to their training, because I actually sort of do some of this work in my position. But to have, ever since I've worked here, I've said that we should have somebody doing this, and it would be a huge boon to this district.
It's a good point, especially in the era of social media out there, that the storyline can take a life of its own out, but somebody's not trying to get ahead of it.
And there's very many places to put those storylines to. And we have to have somebody who knows how to do that, and who has the time to.
And the very great news is we've got a wonderful story to tell. We just need to get it out there.
So how to proceed?
I think from some initial discussions I've had with those folks that made presentations, that they would be willing to at least come back and talk to the board on, if it's just an informal basis at one of our meetings, to say, here's the type of things that we could do, what makes sense to you all? And wanted to see if you all would have any interest in that. It's okay? All right.
I would say that would be good fodder for a work session, so.
Okay.
Because that way we can advertise that no action's going to be taken, this is just kind of next steps in exploration, so.
Are you gonna contact those?
I will.
Do you wanna contact them, and we need to talk about when they would wanna come, and we get back with the rest and make sure it's an available date?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, do we have some meetings that need to be scheduled?
Not at this time, not right now.
Okay. All right.
We do, the one thing that we do have is the one that we talked about with Dr. Bob, that one, and just the, help me, Alicia,
I'd like to discuss salary schedules in a work session.
Okay.
exactly how you want us. We talked about a couple of things, across the board things. We talked about step changing the schedule. I mean, so we'll like present a couple of ways to look at.
Okay. Well, if we want to wrangle the marketing and PR people, we can get an idea of what kind of time we're looking at for. How long do you think for a salary schedule? About an hour?
I think that would cover it.
Okay. We could do those both in one work session. That would be a useful use of our time, so.
And then
Maybe-
Dr. Bob wants to go over the enrollment and demographics.
Demographics.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what that was what I was trying to think of, was the demographics.
Sorry.
That's gonna take an hour, so. All right, so that's 2 work sessions we're looking at, so one for that and then one for,
He has done the demographics in a regular scheduled meeting in past times, but we felt like it probably it's easier to ask questions
Yeah.
and dig in a little bit in a work session.
okay. So that's what's on the horizon, so at least 2 work sessions, so one would be for salary schedule. I would do enrollment demographics first and then salary schedules, because the enrollment demographics drive the discussion on salary schedules. And then it sounds like marketing PR is probably its own. And I would say if we have any disciplinary hearings, we could tack it on to one or the other. Okay.
We could have pizza in or get Jeff Ruby to buy us all steaks or something.
Let's see. Well, if you can get with Dr. Bob and Alicia and let me know what the dates are, and I can task you and Ms. Nance to wrangle us and figure out what we're having there.
I've already thrown out to Dr. Bob March 28th or April 4th is what
That's
was
the date you gave me.
given previously from a session you all wanted to. So he has tentatively on his schedule one of those 2 dates.
Okay, either of those would be okay. How do they look for the rest of y'all, if we can get everybody together?
March 28th would be a week from now, right?
Right.
What's the 28th on? Is that?
It's a Tuesday, they're both
Tuesday.
Tuesdays.
Both Tuesdays.
That's next Tuesday.
And April 4th is the other. A lot of celebrating the day after the Final Four.
April 4th, is that during spring break?
No.
Yes,
that
yes,
affect anybody?
that's during spring break, yes. Okay, okay.
Unless you have a preference, the one of those two, give me a preference.
I'm good for either one. The fourth probably give everybody more time to get stuff together, unless you're ready
Yeah,
to go.
but like Judy said, that's spring break.
I've got my salary
stuff.
schedules ready, but, I mean, it's up to you all.
The 28th really works better for me, but.
28th?
Okay, 28th.
Shoot for 28th.
Okay. What time? I'm fine with 6.
With me. Is Alice, will you
6
be,
o'clock? 6 o'clock,
Yep.
okay.
Ms. Ellis, you'll be sending us some information ahead of that so we can study
Yes,
it.
I'll send you copies of what I've put together for review.
So that's a more special work session to discuss salary schedule and enrollment and demographics on the 28th at 6 p.m. And let's see what else is out there for marketing and PR. Maybe we can set something up for April or May for that.
Okay.
Okay.
So just demographics, is that the only topic?
So it's going to be demographic and enrollment. So that'll be the population presentation that Dr. Bob gives every year. And then we'll discuss salary schedules and how we want to proceed with those. All right. Okay, does anyone want to consider anything off the consent agenda separately? Let's see, I'll note the payroll calendar and the indirect cost revenue reimbursement is on the consent schedule. It's not been on the consent schedule in previous years, so it should be on the consent calendar, by my opinion. But just throw that out there, because that's been a separate board approval item in years past. All right, if not, a motion is in order to approve or acknowledge all the following. Item number 13, consider approval for the Board of Education to pay for a bus and driver for competing Odyssey of the Mind competition at the University of the Cumberland on March 25th, 2017. Item number 14, consider approval of George Rogers Clark High School bass fishing trip to Green River Lake, May 5 through 6, 2017. Item number 15, consider approval of GRC High School bass fishing trip to Kentucky Lake for state tournament, May 10 through 14, 2017. Item number 16, consider approval of GRC High School Fine Arts cohort to Cincinnati, May 19, 2017. Item number 17, consider approval of GRC High School boys soccer to participate in tournament in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, September 15 through 17, 2017. Item number 18, acknowledge SBDM minutes. Item number 19, acknowledge community eligibility program. Item number 20, approval of employee leaves of absence. Item number 21, acknowledge notice of personnel action report. Item number 22, acknowledge payroll calendar for 2017 and 18. Item number 23, acknowledge indirect cost revenue reimbursement from food service account to general fund account for 2017-18 school year. Item number 24, acknowledge a surplus of 20 bat bags on the GRC high school baseball team. Item number 25, acknowledge the cash position report. Item number 26, acknowledge the Clark County Clerk's motor vehicle tax report. Item number 27, acknowledge the Clark County Sheriff's report. Item number 28, acknowledge the monthly financial report. Item number 29, acknowledge the general fund budget summary report. Item number 30, acknowledge the contingency budget report. Item number 31, acknowledge the balance sheet report. A motion is in order to approve or acknowledge all of those items.
I move that we approve or acknowledge items 13 through 21 as given.
Okay, motion by Ms. Hunt.
31, sorry. Well, there was a 2 there that were in there.
Motion by Ms. Hicks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Jello. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion is in order to authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Heisel.
Second.
Second by Ms. Hicks. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion is in order to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Motion by Ms. Ritchie. Second. Second by Mr. Parrott. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned at 8:29.
got done quick.
Don't jinx it.
Couple of things I was thinking I didn't say.